Well, undoubtedly some silent films were shown with absolutely no music at all. So providing music was always a choice. But the kind of the purposes and the nature of that music could vary massively according to the type of film and the size of accompanying group, which might range from a single pianist or organist through a small ensemble up to a full scale symphony orchestra. And equally, we know that sort of certain early traditions of accompanying silent film made no effort to match the music with the picture. It was just pleasing background noise. And there are loads of stories about pianists sitting with their back to the screen, just playing anything, which might turn out to be wildly inappropriate. But for the most part, it's about providing music to match the mood of a scene. And that music would be characterized according to certain types, which were sort of derived from theatrical melodrama. And you'd have books, anthologies, collections of generic music, which was appropriate for a certain type of scene, for a love scene, for action, or for suspense. And it would be up to the musicians to either select that in advance, if there was more than one, or if a single player to perhaps improvise according to what's going on screen, making a selection as they went. So in that sense, it was to really support the emotional content of the film. Well, there are always challenges when you're synchronizing live music with a recorded object like film, but they're really magnified in the case of silent film, especially in contemporary performance, because we're not always sure about the projection speed. So film projection speed was standardized at 24 frames per second in 1929, but prior to that point, it could be as low as 12 frames per second and anywhere in between. And in fact, it may even have varied within the same film. So trying to work out how a specially composed score might fit with that kind of film is immensely challenging and requires a huge amount of preparation, really. Well, a conductor has two roles. Firstly, they have to obviously conduct the orchestra, but most importantly, they have to ensure synchronization with the image. I mean, the film's not going to slow down or stop to allow the conductor to catch up if they've lingered over a certain phrase or allowed their musicians to indulge in a particular moment. And of course, that means that the conductor has to watch the image very carefully, so they need to know the score backwards, really. I mean, it's a completely different skill from conducting in the concert hall or the opera house. And in order to do this, many conductors will make use of a variable click track to help them keep their tempos steady, and also a monitor with information about synchronization points. Because if they make a small error over the course of several hours of film, you might get to the situation where the film is finished and the orchestra is still playing. Throughout the 1920s, opera composers and opera houses are beginning to recognize the threat to their audiences that comes with cinema and cinematic entertainment. And so they're beginning to think about how they can use film techniques in their stagings. And even Strauss, we know that he was convinced to agree to the Rosenkavalier film project because his librettist Hugo von Hofmannsthal suggested it would be a way to whet an audience's appetite for the opera itself. So there's a sense in which Strauss's engagement with film is part of a larger story about the relationship between opera, film and popular culture.